Hello, and welcome to the Thursday, May 2nd meeting of TV Toastmasters. TV Toastmasters meets the first Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. and the third Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. at the Anderson Community Television Studio located at 7850 5 Mile Road. I'd like to send a warm welcome to our guests looking in from home, as well as our guests in the studio audience and our fellow Toastmasters. Tonight we have a great meeting in store, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to the president as well as the Toastmaster for this evening, Miss Michelle Lewis, which is me. So something I forgot to mention as I opened is that you can find out more about TV Toastmasters at www.tvtoastmasters.com. So we'll go ahead and get our meeting started for this evening. I'd like to send a warm welcome to our all-counter and our grammarian this evening, who is Diego Martinez, a guest for our audience. So Diego, please come up and share with us which will be the word of the day, as well as Diego will take note of any grammatical error, such as ahs and ums, and will communicate those back to the group. Diego.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. Well, it's an honor. Good evening to the audience and also for the Toastmaster. I'm going to do the word of the day. What the purpose of the word of the day is that as soon as I release the word, people are going to start using that word, or at least in some sentences. And the most important is how we can practice. Today I picked the word collaboration, since we are together in the same boat. So for the audience, my word is going to be collaboration. The collaboration obviously is self-explanatory, but it comes from, is a noun, and come from the Latin, that is labor together and laborate on labored. So what is this? We want to include it in everything. Is when we join community, we want to collaborate. When we join audiences, we want to collaborate. When we are spontaneous talking about something, we put our efforts in order to collaborate with others. So this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do also count the ums and ands, or all the different words that people are making, and I will be doing tonight. So thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you, Diego. Collaboration is definitely something we do at Toastmasters. We work together to improve ourselves and to help each other. And I think I threw Diego into that role tonight. So Diego, I appreciate that. I also wanted to say a warm welcome to Jean and Natasha for joining us this evening. We love to have guests, so please continue to come bring guests with you. And then for those looking in at home, you're always welcome. Next, I'm going to call up Carol Kormelink. Carol is our Tabletopics master tonight, and Tabletopics is one of the most fun parts of TV Toastmasters because it allows you to practice the skills of thinking on your feet. We all have those moments where our boss asks us a question and we start squirming in our seat because we don't know how to answer things under pressure. That's what Tabletopics is meant to do. It allows you to handle those hot seat questions. Carol will ask the question, and then she will select somebody in the audience to answer. So you literally have the time from when the question leaves Carol's mouth to the time you get up to the podium to think of something to say. So please welcome our Tabletopics master, Ms. Carol Kormelink.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And this is a lectern because we are not standing on it. Although I could put my feet down here and stand on it. The other thing she didn't mention about Tabletopics, you may answer truthfully. You may come up with the biggest story you ever made up. Or you can say, that reminds me to talk about something else. A very, very shy girl today came to our Cincinnati Communicators meeting, and she was just petrified, and we encouraged her to come up and speak. And her topic was, why should we pick you to be the refreshment chair at our next meeting? And she's going, but she came up and somebody said, well, what's your favorite dessert? And she said, the strawberry cake. And she got going And we all wanted a recipe. So she blossomed as soon as she was able to talk about something that she knew well. So I encourage you, even if you're scared to death, jump in the water. Get wet. A lot of people think Toastmasters is something about toast. Either liquid or by having toast. Our purpose tonight in Table Topics is to help spread the word that Toastmasters is a place where leaders are made. That's our Toastmasters, where leaders are made. That's what International says. And your task is to invite someone to come to the next meeting. And I want to know what kind of approach, who you think might be a good guest at the next meeting, and what kind of approach would you take? And Michelle will be my first person to answer that.
Thank you, Carol. The trick to getting someone to come is first find out that they're available. So you kind of give them, kind of pull them in and say, oh, what are you doing Thursday night? I know you don't have any plans, what do you have going on Saturday morning? And make sure that they answer, oh, nothing. And then you kind of capture them and say, okay, I've got something really fun for you to do, something we're going to do together. We're going to collaborate with several other people, and we're going to go to a Toastmasters meeting. There's no strings attached, right? So you don't have to pay anything to come. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. You don't have to sign up. It's literally you can come and observe, and you can see if it's the right environment for you. Toastmasters sells itself, so really the key is just roping them in, getting them to commit. Once they get here, the club and the meeting and everything around the environment really, it sells itself. So it's not really that challenging. It's just getting the people to commit. So my key is rope them in, tell them up front. Don't tell them what you're asking them to do until they commit that they're available, and then you rope them in. The other thing you could do is you could just say, I'm picking you up. I'm going to take you somewhere. It's a surprise. You have no idea what it is. And then you bring them, and you're the ride, so what else can they do? That's what I would do, Madam Tabletopics Master.
Okay, thank you. So, you said you didn't want to do that. Okay, on your way out from work this evening, you were in the elevator and someone said, where are you off to? What are your plans for the evening? What did you tell them, Diego?
Thank you, Carol. I was coming in the elevator and I found that there's a person who worked in another, same company, but it's in another area. And I was asking her about a nice dress that she was doing, and I mentioned if she worked for Kroger, and I know she worked for Kroger because she have a badge. And I said, we are in the floor 16 and she's in the floor 25. So I said, maybe if tomorrow you are available, I would like to see your new office because they have a new office in the building. So at the same time that I was asking about that one, I said that they have some kind of gift for clients and a nice book. So I said, maybe I can have a new book for tomorrow. I said, I make sure that I have it tomorrow. So I was asking for a new book the Discoveries has, and I would like to have it tomorrow. But I was talking to her, and she's willing to give me a tour tomorrow in her office. So that's what I did today at 5.
Very good. So
Thank
you
you.
had the opportunity to mention Toastmasters.
Yeah.
In fact, the lady was told that they needed someone there and that she would be good. She was competing against this guy in a contest. And she went. The lady had a Toastmaster magazine on her desk, and they talked about because she wanted to get Toastmasters. And that's how Toastmasters got started at Kroger's downtown. And they had 35 people sign up. They had to cut it off for their first people that came. My third and last table topic is brain freeze. Jean. Oh, I'm supposed to say the question first and then the person. There are different areas in our life that we could benefit from in Toastmasters, either by being a leader or a communicator. I would like to know what would be an area that you think would be very valuable that Toastmasters might help someone that you know. Jean. Who you would collaborate with. And we always shake hands and clap a lot.
Okay. I'm almost forgetting the question already. What Toastmasters would actually help?
Yeah, if you know someone that Toastmasters might help, what you might say to them.
Okay. Well, I know one of the reasons why I'm here is I've heard that you could improve your communication skills and also to have the self-confidence to make a presentation. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I would tell someone about Toastmasters is that it could help to boost your confidence and maybe help improve your communication skills. That's the only thing I can think of.
That's very good. Thank you very much for that. In fact, that's part of what our club mission is. Excuse me. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leader skills, resulting in greater self-confidence. You hit the nail on the head, and personal growth. Thank you very much. That concludes my table topics. Madam Toastmaster. Oh, that's the one I coughed in. Left-handed.
That's very collaborative of you, Carol, not to pass your germs along to me. Table topics is always fun because you never know what the topic is going to be, but today was a very relevant topic, and we'll continue to collaborate and think of new ways that we can get guests to come, and once they get here, the club sells itself. So now we'll transition into the speaking portion of our meeting, and this is really the meat of a Toastmasters meeting. It gives the opportunity for people to come up and to practice their presentation skills and their development skills, their communication skills. Our speakers will each have an evaluator assigned to them, and later on in the meeting we will hear feedback on how our speakers did well and then some areas of improvement. Our first speaker this evening is a fairly new member of TV Toastmasters. He will be giving his icebreaker this evening out of his Competent Communicator Manual. It's project number 1, and it's a 4 to 6 minute speech. I'd like to welcome Bobby Hall, Who I Am. Bobby Hall, Who I Am.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Icebreaker speech. That's what this is. They say this is supposed to be the easiest speech you'll write because it's the first one. And how hard can it be? You're writing about yourself, right? Well, I found this a little bit more difficult than most people, so I used my wife to help collaborate with me on this. This speech is about me. My name is James Robert Hall, but you all know me as Bobby. This is a nickname that was given to me by my grandfather, but this is another story for a later time. Tonight, we're going to get to my favorite subject, which is I think is interesting, so hopefully you do too at least. In the words of Shrek, I am like an onion. I have many layers, just like all of you. So tonight, I'll peel back a few of those layers to give you just a brief overview of who I am. Layer 1, travel. Who here likes to travel? I certainly do. I've been to all sorts of places, tropical and cold. But of all the places I've been to, I have to say that Cancun, Mexico is probably one of my favorite places to go. I like to party, what can I say? So much so that I actually took my wife there for our honeymoon. Note to self, when traveling, always check the weather. Layer 2, I love everything history. Now we've all heard of Hurricane Katrina, right? But who here has heard of or remembers Hurricane Wilma? I do. If you haven't heard about it, let me just give you a brief history lesson on that hurricane. Here's my history lesson for you on this. Hurricane Wilma hit the same year as Hurricane Katrina. It did just as much damage to Cancun, Mexico as Katrina did to New Orleans. That's your brief history lesson for the day. Now, weathering a storm was something to remember, especially on your honeymoon with your wife. Now, just imagine on that honeymoon, you're packed into a shelter with 40 other people who are your newest and closest, and I do mean closest friends. This is a 20 by 20 classroom that they stick you in. There are no beds. You have a cot or a roll. So, in that, if you think you know your significant other, just put yourself in that hurricane. I think I learned more about my wife in that 5 days than I did the first 6 years that we were together. You learn just how much you love each other, trust each other, can talk to each other, and most of all, how much you'll stay together. I walked 2 miles after that hurricane for my wife to get what she calls her morning coffee, Diet Coke. It was then that she realized how much she knew that I would do for her. But what she didn't realize during that walk, I actually just wanted to get out of that 20 by 20 room with my 40 new friends to stretch my legs. So it was a very enjoyable walk for myself. But truthfully, with that kind of situation, you know that your marriage will weather throughout the years, just like the hurricanes have come and gone through Cancun, Mexico, and the pyramids still stand today. Layer 3, speaking of travel and history, this brings us to another layer, and this is my favorite. Women, close your ears. It's sports. I know. What can I say? I'm a typical guy. I watch just about every sport that has a score to it. One of the most... Sorry, I lost my track here. If it has a score, I probably watch it and even play a few in my spare time. Softball in particular. I have a team that I put together about 8 years ago. We're no pros, mind you, but we're pretty good, so watch out. We won the league 5 out of the last 8 years. Not bad. On to another topic in my... I'm sorry. 5 years. My team name is Keota. I left that part out. I'm sorry. I really think you guys should know this. It's an acronym, K-E-O-T-A. It stands for Knock 'em on their assets. It's a pretty fun name. We've got a lot of people that want to say, hey, what does that stand for? It's when you're drinking, it's a pretty fun name. This came from a friend of mine who actually went to McNicholas High School, who they dubbed this as one of their charity events. They called it Team Keota. I don't remember what charity event it was, but I can look it up later for you. Beyond that, one of my favorite things to do is hang out with my family in my backyard with a beer in my hand playing cornhole. I don't like to brag, but I am pretty good at that. Sometimes I let my competitive streak get a little too far. My wife hasn't played cornhole with me for about 7 years now. But that's okay. My dad, my brother, and my friends all still like to have a good match, so we play together. Layer 4. Now, my favorite hobby of all time is my family and my friends. My friends know that I would do what I can to help them. I'll be there for support, to fix what needs fixing, push them when they need to be pushed to succeed, or just simply be there for them. My friends are not only my friends, but they're more like family. So much so that my 2 boys actually think that they're their aunts and uncles. I work so that I can provide for my family, just like all of you. I've worn many hats throughout my career and have learned many trades. I've learned that quality is better than quantity, and that having a proactive personality is better than having a passive one. My latest mountain to conquer is why I'm here, public speaking, hence being proactive. My boys are the glue to all my layers. Their names are Carter and Braden. They're 2 and 5 years old. They have taught me more patience, perseverance, and passion in their short little lives than my own 33 years on this earth. I was born in 1979. Thank you. I was saving that for later on. I realize that they're like little sponges. They absorb everything, all my hobbies and my interests, everything I say and sometimes shouldn't say, sometimes things that we see that we don't want them to see. So I try to curtail what they see and how they see it. I do all this to try and make my boys proud of me, to better myself in my career, my life, our faith, and to just be the best father I can be. I love to teach my boys new things and pass on my wisdom, good and bad, and to teach them life's lessons, whether it's bad for them or not. I want them to know that I am not perfect, but I do the best I can do to be a good person. In the end, I want them to have their own layers, just like me, to develop into their own personality. I've just given you 4 layers of who I am. I could go on probably for another 100 layers, but we've only got 6 to 7 minutes for this speech. Like my wife says, sometimes I talk just a little too much, but that's okay. At least my boys are listening to me. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Bobby. So have you planned the second honeymoon yet?
We've already had it.
Okay, great. Okay, you can always do number 3. Oh, there you go. It's a fantastic speech. Bobby gave his icebreaker, and that's always the most difficult speech to give. Now you've done it, and the rest will become easy. History. There you go. Now I'd like to take a minute for the evaluators to provide feedback for Bobby's speech, and we'll be back in a minute. Now I'd like to take a minute for the evaluators to provide feedback for Bobby's speech, and we'll be back in a minute. And welcome back. I'd like to introduce our second speaker for this evening. This will also be an icebreaker speech for one of our newest members. It is the first speech of the Competent Communicator Manual. It's called Terri's Icebreaker. I'd like to introduce and welcome Terri Wellman, speaking on Terri's Icebreaker.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and thank you all for welcoming me. As I was introduced, I am Terri Wellman, and this is my icebreaker. I look forward to this, although it is a new experience. As I prepared the presentation, the manual, the guidelines, suggest and recommend that we share some of our personal experiences or something a little bit personal about us as individuals. And I appreciated that guideline because I think it's through when you share something a little personal is when you make connections, you start to have meaning to other people, and that allows us to be collaborative in the way that we meet, the way that we talk, the way that we communicate. I also think there's an element of vulnerability along with that collaboration, but I appreciate the opportunity. So I will, as the guidelines suggest, share with you some personal details. I'll also talk to you a little bit about some of my professional experience, my work. And in that, as I transition between the two, it'll provide an explanation of what brought me to Toastmasters. And along with that comes a little bit of a confession. But first, let me explain. I grew up in Anderson Township, but 40 years ago, we wouldn't have called it Anderson Township. If someone asked me where I lived, I would have said, oh, just a little bit past Mount Washington. But actually, it was about a mile west of here. I grew up. I'm pleased to say my mother, at 90 years old, continues to live in the same 3-bedroom brick ranch house that was built in the 50s. It was great. I'm one of 5, and I consider my childhood, my youth, a wonderful experience. It's kind of ironic, because that was the first 20-some years. If I look at the last 20-some years, it has also basically been in Anderson Township. We do call it Anderson Township now. It was also in a 3-bedroom brick ranch house that was built in the 50s, about 2 miles southeast of here. So I'm a local gal. My husband Tony and I started newlyweds in this starter house that needed a lot of fixing up, a lot of work. Fortunately, I married a man who has some talent and some vision to make it into a wonderful home. It was a great place to raise our 2 kids, and I can say that I'm happy at the end of the workday to pull in the driveway. I'll mention a little bit about our children. We have our daughter and a son. Our daughter just recently, we celebrated her graduation from UC last weekend. So it was a milestone for her and for us. And our son is also at the University of Cincinnati. He is in the College of Engineering and Technology. You know, as a parent, Bobby kind of talked about his children, and I think you probably agree that, you know, as a parent, you just want the good things for your kids. And I think that we certainly have been blessed in that way. So let me go on and talk a little bit from the professional side to the, from the personal side to the professional side. And this is where my dirty little secret comes in, my confession, in that I have actually a degree in communications. So might be a little surprising in an organization such as Toastmasters that is for shaping communication skills, leadership skills, collaborative skills, that it is here I am, a person who holds a degree in communications. Somehow I managed to get through 4 years at Xavier without ever taking a public speaking class. Wasn't, as I look back, I don't know if it was denial on my part or bad, kind of irrational. I convinced myself I really didn't need it, but the truth was I just really dreaded it and didn't want to do it. So what brings me here today is I work in communications, again, some irony. I spend my day writing a lot, doing strategic planning, as well as spending time, working on websites, brochures, all types of written material. But as a communication manager, and I was recently evaluated, as you do, your work performance, and I was having a pretty good performance where my boss said, you know, Terry, I think it would be helpful if you developed your presentation skills. She's a smart gal. I knew she was right. And so that's what brought me here. I knew I didn't want to do one of those cheesy one-day seminars of, develop your presentation skills in 3 easy steps. I knew that it really takes more, and I appreciate Toastmasters' approach that requires a building of skill level and of practice. And I think that's key, the practice element. So kind of as I wind down, I will say that it has been a pleasure to allowing me to speak with you in a few minutes, sharing who I am and how I came to be involved in the organization. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Terri, we are very glad to have you here and to collaborate with you to become a better speaker. So we'll take 1 minute for Terri's evaluations. So we'll take 1 minute for Terri's evaluations. Welcome back. Now, after having 2 of our icebreaker speeches, we are going to move on to our 3rd speaker of the evening, who happens to be a very experienced Toastmaster. Mr. Rick Barron is actually an advanced communicator bronze and an advanced leader silver. Rick's been with the club several years, and I apologize for not knowing off the top of my head, 5 years, and has just wowed us with his speaking skills. So we're looking forward to his speech this evening, which is out of the Special Occasion Manual, project number 2. It's a 5 to 7 minute speech. So please welcome Mr. Rick Barron, 4 score. Mr. Rick Barron, 4 score.
Thank you, Michelle. 4 score years and 2 weeks ago, our great father brought forth to this land of ours the woman that we know as Carol Kormelink. I am here today to regale her for her 80th birthday. A little belated, but this was my first opportunity to get it on tape, and I wanted to make sure that she had it so that she could keep it as my gift to her for her birthday. Typically what you find when people do speeches like this, they talk about all the wonderful skills, accomplishments, roles, awards, and other things that the person they're speaking about has accomplished. And I got to think that while that list is really extensive for Carol, I had a little bit different approach on how to do this. And my approach is to talk about the things Carol doesn't do and the lessons that we learn, or that I specifically learn, from the things that Carol doesn't do. Interesting. The first thing that Carol does not do is she does not judge contests. Contests are a very important part of the Toastmasters experience. And at one point in time, I was at a contest and Carol was asked to fill in as a judge. She vehemently said, "No way, I don't judge." I took her off to the side and I said, "Carol, you're the one that trained me how to judge, and you don't judge contests? I don't understand." And she said, "Rick, I'm biased, and I cannot issue an impartial decision." Wow. We've heard the Greek philosopher Socrates talk about know thyself. And I looked it up on Wikipedia, and there's hundreds of different descriptions for what Socrates meant by that phrase. But as I step back and look at that, what I learned from Carol not judging contests is she understands that sometimes my weaknesses can block someone else's strengths. And it really gets me to think, at times, am I just doing this to do this? Or should I be focusing on my strength? And Carol's strength is running the judging group and serving as chief judge, her favorite role. The second thing that Carol does not do, Carol doesn't sleep. I don't know whether you know this or not, but this woman exists typically on 1 to 2 hours of sleep a night. She was just down in Florida and on Facebook posted all over the place how she's now going to get 6 or more hours of sleep. Personally, over the last 5 years, I've heard that a number of times. I'm hoping that she changes, for her personal health, that she changes that. But she typically gets between 1 and 2 hours sleep every night. And I've heard that maybe you don't need as much sleep as you get older. And rather than pass that off to biology, I asked her, "Carol, what do you do all night while you're up?" She's not up watching late movies. She's not ironing her clothes. She's not cleaning her house. She's making good on the commitments that she made. Keeping her word, making sure that she's prepared the next day for the 4 Toastmasters Club that she's in, for the other events and activities that she does. She understands how important it is to follow through on those commitments that we make and is willing to stay up all night long to make that happen. In today's society, it's so easy to just brush that off and blame somebody else. I ran out of time. The traffic was too heavy. Something else happened. I got a text message that I had to reply to. Not Carol. Up all night, most nights, keeping the promises that she makes. The third thing that Carol doesn't do, and Carol, this is a little personal, but I wouldn't share it if I didn't think that you were okay with me sharing it. And that is, Carol does not kiss. She doesn't kiss. And I'm not saying she doesn't kiss and tell. I'm just saying she doesn't kiss. So here's a woman, vibrant, exciting, energetic. She travels, she gets around, and you know what? She's had plenty of opportunities to run into those little old men, you know, those kind. I'm sure you know those kind. Maybe your grandfather's one of those kind, right? Plenty of opportunities to meet those men. And I'll be having dinner with her one time, and I'll say, Carol, sounds like that guy was kind of took a liking to you, you know? Why didn't you give him a little kiss? And she says, Rick, one kiss leads to more kisses. Kisses lead to petting. Petting leads to, you know where that goes, right? We don't have to go there. What I learned from that point is that Carol understands that her actions have consequences. And she's willing to put boundaries in her life because she understands that crossing those boundaries at times have unwanted consequences that she's not willing to live with. 80 years from today, actually 2 weeks ago, people in this club, in other clubs, in our community, may be sitting back, regaling the lessons that they've learned not only from the accomplishments and the recognition that Carol has been able to achieve, but maybe through the collaboration that she has had with so many on the things that she does not do. Thank you, Carol, for your friendship, for your leadership. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Rick. Happy belated birthday to Carol. And I too have gotten some of those strange 3 a.m. emails, and I was first met Carol, I thought, what the heck is going on here? But I later learned that she doesn't sleep, which I haven't figured that one out yet. But happy birthday. We hope you had a wonderful one and many more. We will now take a minute for evaluations of Rick's speech. Welcome back. After 3 fantastic speeches, we will now transition into the collaboration portion of our meeting where we will get feedback from our evaluators. To kick that off, I will introduce the general evaluator for today's meeting. And the general evaluator will give us feedback on the entire meeting, and he has a team that supports him. So please welcome Mr. Steve Aaronholz.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters are honored guests that are here, as well as looking in from home. As Michelle mentioned, this is the evaluation portion of the meeting. This is where the speakers tonight are going to get feedback on what they did well as some of the things that they might want to consider working on in some of their upcoming speeches. My first evaluator on my team tonight is Carol Kormelink, and she's going to be providing us with her evaluation of Bobby Hall's icebreaker, Who I Am. Carol?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guests, and our viewing audience at home. Who I Am, Bobby Hall. Very good speech. I liked the way that you compared yourself, who I am, to an onion with the different layers, and you shared 4 of the layers with us. So you had a good opening body, and you concluded with those were some of the layers, and you have many more layers like an onion. I like that. I like that you had very good quotes that quality is better than quantity and some of the different things that you've learned along the way. Did the speech reflect adequate preparation? I said, well, yes, it seemed like you had practiced that many times before you gave it. And yeah, I heard every word that I don't know if you had as much vocal variety as you might have had, but I heard every word clearly and audibly. I was sitting right up front, so that was good, and I'll Didn't hear any ums and ahs, which is unusual for a first speech, which I'll see how well I was listening when I watch the DVD. I'll pick up on that. The use of notes, a lot of people for their first speech, they do have their notes, whereas in reality, it's a speech that you know better than anyone else. And you should be able to just talk it off the top of your head. But I've used notes all the time. I said the president uses notes, the pastor uses notes, and Carol's going to use notes. So I'm just now getting away from notes. I don't like it when I don't have my notes because I don't feel as I'm as well organized, but I gave my speech today off the cuff and icebreaker speech. So it's, if you can learn to not rely on your notes so much, and one of the things, if you are going to use notes, instead of looking down at your tablet, if you just put your eyes down and glance down rather than your head down. I thought that was very good. And I think as you get more comfortable in the manual, you'll be able to organize your speech where you just have some keywords there and you'll know what the thought is. I think you'll be able to do that. As you relaxed a little, that if you didn't call attention to when you lost your place, we wouldn't have known it. So you don't have to tell us that. And you don't have to thank the audience for giving your speech. We need to thank you for giving us a great speech to have us listen. And I like that you compared yourself to the onion. Mr. General Evaluator. Looking forward to your next speech.
Thank you, Carol. The next member on my evaluation team that's going to be helping me out tonight with our speaker evaluations is Rick Barron, and he is going to give us his evaluation of Terri Wellman's icebreaker speech, Terri's Icebreaker. Rick?
Thank you, Steve. Terri, we heard this was probably the hardest, easiest speech that you ever had to give. And you made it look effortless because of a couple of things. Number one, you were the backup speaker. In most cases, the backup speaker doesn't get to speak. But there was an empty spot, and you stepped in and took that spot. So that is one of the hardest roles to fill, is coming in as the backup speaker and speaking when that slot opens up. So not only is that the hardest, easiest speech, but you did it kind of literally on the cuff, not really knowing that that was going to happen. In addition, you also used another advanced technique, and that was when you told us you had a confession to make. Kind of kept us hanging, waiting to go, gee, I wonder what that's going to be. And then you kind of got it about 2/3 of the way into your speech to keep that continuity. So advanced with the laptop, having the prop, advanced kind of holding that thing over our head so that we would come back to it at some other point in time. It's clear that you're very comfortable speaking with your hands, so you use your hands well in gesturing. You put it over your heart at some point in time. You're very comfortable speaking with your hands, so gestures are very easy for you. Eye contact was very good, so you did a good job with eye contact, making good eye contact with the audience. There's one thing that I would suggest that would help you in improving this speech as you move forward, and that was pausing. Rather than fumbling for words, or rather than looking down at your notes, I'm sure you knew what was next. Just pause and think, and you'll know where to go next. That will take out the majority of those crutch words that we say, that we do, just pausing. And people will have a chance to reflect about what you said and go, wow, that was really powerful what she said. And all you're doing is trying to think of what to think next. I mean, it's kind of the big secret that nobody really talks about. Just pause and think. Everybody thinks you're so intellectual, and all you're really doing is trying to go, oh my gosh, what do I say next? Overall, good opening, good body, good conclusion. We learned a lot about you. I mean, a ton about you. A lot of people get up here and give their icebreaker speeches, and literally we learn nothing about them. So I felt like we just had dinner together, and that you were able to communicate literally your whole life story to me. I look forward to learning more about you in future speeches. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Rick. My third evaluator for our speakers tonight is me. And I'm going to be evaluating Rick Barron's speech entitled Four Score. Rick's speech was out of the Special Occasions Speech Manual. His objectives were to prepare a speech praising or honoring somebody, either living or dead. Fortunately, we have a living person with us. Address 5 areas concerning the individual and his or her accomplishments. Include anecdotes illustrating points within the speech. Good job, Rick. I know you had asked me for input, and I don't know that I gave you all that much, but you still did a really good job of hooking us into this speech, which was to roast Carol on her 80th birthday. Your speech opened with kind of a historic bent to it, and it was creating in our minds this, well, I wonder where this is going to go. So we're paying attention. Of course, those of us who knew this was a roast of Carol had a little bit of an idea. I like the fact that you had 3 specific things that Carol doesn't do, that you have learned how to, or I should say, your comment on my weaknesses can block someone else's strengths, I thought was really a rather profound statement and a rather critical look at ourselves as to how we do things, especially while I'm back there trying to be the director and run the cameras and everything at once. But I thought that you did a good job with your 3 examples, that she doesn't judge, even though she's usually the chief judge. She doesn't sleep, and I have to agree with Michelle and with you, because I've seen these emails at some ungodly hour in the morning, and I'm thinking, well, she does a lot better functioning on less sleep than I do. And that Carol doesn't kiss. That was interesting, a little kiss and tell, or no kiss and do tell anyway. Let me see, what else do I have here to share? The 3 points were good, kind of kept us going through the speech. One of the things that I would have liked would have been just a little story somewhere, something to give us an example of one of the 3 points that you made. You did talk about it a bit with judging, because I thought that was really good, that, you know, she's always recruiting judges, but she doesn't want to judge herself. So I think that's interesting. You did great body language. One of the things that I noticed, because this is on television, is that some of your gestures were a little bit broad so that you can't see your hands, like now. So that's one of the other things that you have to keep in mind, that there's a limited area that we have when you're on screen. But I enjoyed it thoroughly, as I always do your speeches. Good job, and I will look forward to hearing your next one for special occasions. Mr. General Evaluator. Okay. One of the things I wanted to point out in all 3 of the evaluations that you heard is that we generally do what's called a sandwich evaluation. And that's where we will provide a little overview of what the speech's objectives may have been, what we liked about it. We'll point out some growth areas that the individual may want to consider using in following speeches that they work on. And then we reinforce the positive aspects of the speech and their strengths at the end. Because Toastmasters is a nurturing environment. It's one where we come to learn. You shouldn't feel threatened. Your job doesn't depend on it. And you have fun. My other evaluation team members that I have with me tonight are the Counter and Grammarian Report. And we're going to hear from him now. He's going to tell us what we did as far as crutches, ahs and ums, and if we use the word of the day on collaboration. Help me welcome Diego Martinez.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening again. This is the part that I'm going to express. I was very nervous to do it because I commit a lot of ums and ums all the time. So to me, to be an evaluator for that one, I have to pretty much pay so much attention and trying to learn about what other people are doing, so it's like a learning on the go. Today, I am going to say that Jean was the first person who came to the state, and you did 5 ums, and 2 and, 1 well, and 1 so. So it was pretty good for to be the first time here. Michelle, no ums, no on, everything was perfect. And she used the word of the day 4 times. That was excellent. Carol, she didn't have any and ums. She only had probably 1 smash lips that she did, 1. So that was the only one. And she used the word of the day 2 times. That was great. Thank you, Carol. For Bobby, in your speech, I only count 1 That was the only thing that I did, and I count 1 well and 3 so. That was part of you when you got the speech, so it was pretty good and very assertive, the way that you used all the vocabulary and very good flow. Good pauses, I said. And Terri, we come up, I think you and me, we have a very good, well done when we do the ums. You did 13. I think I did 30 the first time, so I think you did better than me the first time. So you did 13 of those. You used the word collaborate 2 times. That was great. The word well, 1, and 2 times so, part of the sentences. And Rick, he's our expert. He is completely clean, nothing come up in his words, so it was very pristine. All the word that he used, the pauses, so you can see how everything flow and get to the point that when he was talking about Carol, everything is so illustrate and engaging the conversation so well. And that's all I have, so thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. And I will call our timer up here to give us her timer's report. And then we will have to wind up the meeting. So help me welcome Terri Wellman.
So to recap on the timing of the various presentations, Diego did the introductory word as he explained collaboration, and that is typically in that 2 to 3 minute range. Yours was just a few seconds shy at about a minute 30, but very well done. And actually, timing went pretty much as suggested or recommended here with the table topics. Michelle did the first one, and the guideline is that this is about a 1 to 2 minute presentation, and you did it in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Diego did 1 minute 10 seconds for his, and Jean, yours was just at 1 minute, so that was ideal. And as we went on to the actual speeches, when Bobby presented, I think there was a little bit of confusion of actually how long his icebreaker should be. Ran a little bit longer at 7 minutes 49 seconds. Mine fell in about at a 6 minute 18 seconds, and Rick, which yours was meant to be a little bit longer than those icebreakers, I understand. Is that correct? Yes? Yeah, 5 to 7. You were at 7:22. You were on a roll. It was going well. And lastly, as we did the evaluations, the evaluators all were in the guidelines. Carol's came in at 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes 30 seconds. Rick at just over 3 minutes, and Steve at 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Terri. Well, I'm going to turn the lectern back over to our president, who will be closing the meeting. And I want to thank all of my evaluators for your role in tonight's meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. What a fantastic meeting. We had 3 wonderful speeches, some great feedback. I do want to say thank you to our guests that joined us tonight, our regular, Diego Martinez, as well as Jean Ho and Natasha Natasha Herman. So we do hope that you guys will come back. I want to thank those looking in from home. Please feel free to come join us in the studio. You can find out more about us at www.tvtoastmasters.com. And this concludes our Thursday, May 2nd meeting of TV Toastmasters.